Welcome and welcome back to the ever more epic adventures looking into the free-to-play MMO Guild Wars 2, with this chapter bringing us and Disco Gizmo to the unforgiving deserts of the Path of Fire expansion, to take a look at what it has to offer players today. And with quite a number of you singing its praises, I'm very excited to see what the expansion has to offer, exploring its landscapes and reaching new heights.
Nope.
An excitement clearly shared by Disco's raptor companion, being so eager to start that he's quite literally levitating across the lands to begin the journey.
Okay.
My name's Mitch Mannix, and this is a deep dive into Guild Wars 2, Path of Fire. With the events of the previous expansion Heart of Thorns in the rearview mirror, the Path of Fire experience begins once again via the game's Living World season content. Season 3 of the Living World this time around has cranked the content and experience provided to players up to 11, with multiple massive exclusive zones. These zones are grand in scale and feature rich with event and quest opportunities, including unique currencies to collect for a chance to purchase gear upgrades, while meeting the interesting and sometimes nightmare-inducing local population. The content for Season 3 of the Living World has clearly had just as much love and attention poured into it as the base game and expansion experience. Unique masteries can be obtained, the open world heart quests make a very welcome return, and ArenaNet has even thrown in some keyboard-crushing jumping puzzles to keep players reaching new heights while exploring Season 3 zones, along with working through the story to set up the main event. And it's to that main event we go, but first making a quick stop to outfit our pint-sized hero with some new threads for his upcoming adventure, using the game's wardrobe feature to select a look out of the many tempting options.
Shit.
With a truly heroic look confirmed, we begin our journey by airship to the harsh desert lands of the Path of Fire expansion, and after working through the introductory mission, beginning our exploration in Amnoon in the Crystal Desert, to report in with the team and meet some of the locals. After progressing through the early story missions, we are let loose upon the new open world, and what is clear from the offset is just how contrasting Path of Fire zones are from the previous outing in Heart of Thorns. In place of the cramped jungle are huge expansive landscapes, with rolling hills of sand coupled with stylized desert settlements tucked in within its cliffsides. ArenaNet once again taking a typically simplistic feeling setting and expanding upon it with a wide range of interesting landmarks and alternative color palettes to breathe character into its barren desert environments. Another element that's noticeable is the bump up in texture quality in the Path of Fire zones, its landscapes feeling far more up to date visually than many previously, especially within the base game. And with Guild Wars 2's soundtrack once again providing a beautiful accompaniment to exploring its world, being a blend of base game, exclusive tracks from the expansion, as well as even callbacks to the original game's Nightfall soundtrack. Whilst Gizmo worked his way through the main storyline, one of the biggest features of Path of Fire is provided to the player, interweaved into the story. That of course being the 6 mounts that the expansion offers to unlock, and as with a fair amount of features offered with this MMO, the mounts are not without their unique elements adding to the experience, with each not only having their own set of skills, but also a mastery tree to allow unlocking even more utility for each. The Raptor's leap ability can be upgraded to shoot across large canyons. The Skimmer can tread water as well as the area's quicksand to access previously inaccessible areas. And the Springer can launch players into the air, making not only the exploration easier, but also unlocking a whole range of activities hidden away in the zone's higher regions. The game encouraging players to experiment with the toolset provided with the mounts, to reach some of its sometimes insanely placed visitors and mastery points, with some titles getting access to highly effective modes of transportation can take away from getting to know the environments well, and it's great to see Path of Fire adding elements into the mix to instead turn the mount system into something even more effective at doing so. Gizmo immediately turned to seeking out the true power of his newly acquired companions, and when it comes to fully unlocking the masteries for the mounts, players again have a wide range of activities to choose from for effective leveling. Zone events from light to bombastic litter the lands once more, telling tales of the local citizens as well as some of the lore around the dwellers of the desert. As previously mentioned, the Heart open world quests make a return, and are repeatable daily for even more experience gains, as well as the adventure system continuing from the previous expansion, this time centered around quick-fire fun activities with a focus on mounted challenges to get involved in, alongside seeking out mastery points.
Oh god, that's so embarrassing.
Excuse me, do you have a moment?
Oh, for you?
No, I don't have a moment.
Where Path of Fire expands upon the formula is with its bounty system. Bounties can be obtained from bounty boards in each zone, and feature tracking down champion and legendary tiered enemy marks, with a pair of randomly selected unstable magic abilities, making for outings even taking on the same foe potentially feeling like a somewhat fresh feeling experience. And with each zone having between 12 and 24 bounties available, it's yet another instance of Guild Wars 2 implementing a feature that feels worked through and worthwhile. There are even bounties specifically available for guild groups to band up and take on the challenges as a team. It goes without saying that seeking out to gather enough XP for the Mount Masteries and Path of Fire comes with it a huge variety of options to do so. And unlike on occasion with Heart of Thorns, I would assign a mastery at the beginning of my session, then dive into everything going on in the world, and get so caught up in the action that I'd sometimes forget that I was even jumping in to grind them out. And while we're on the subject, it was great to see the mastery points themselves also featuring some creative gameplay experiences, alongside the more standard reaching a point in the game's world, also having more novel challenges, such as Gizmo being recruited to help out a local chef with his cooking.
This is a good time to add in some coconut milk. So fetch me some coconuts!
Oh, hell no!
Partially sighted chefs aside, let me know if you enjoy the video and possibly would like to see a final installment covering the new expansion End of Dragons by dropping a like on the video. Make sure to subscribe for oh so much more RPG greatness, as it really helps keep the content coming. Without drifting into spoiler territory, the story in Path of Fire felt exceptionally well told this time around, not only featuring some great set pieces and a compelling cast, but also with the variety offered when playing through the story missions themselves. I was even tasked with leading a small group of troop NPCs around in one mission, ordering them around as if in one of the Overlord series of games. A number of great looking instances keeping things fresh feeling, and even a ghostly instance recapping the pre-expansion events, helping those that may have overlooked the additional content in the Living World seasons to keep up with the unfolding narrative.
Okay, that is genuinely disturbing. I stand corrected.
I'm not saying that Heart of Thorns' story was poor, but Path of Fire for me felt longer and better put together overall, and definitely made it challenging to hit that pause button on its conclusion to work on this video. As anyone who has experienced it will know, gives more than enough incentive to continue on to Season 4, which if anyone is interested I will be streaming both here on YouTube and on Twitch, and it would be cool to have you along for the ride. With Gizmo now in possession of a number of kitted out companions, and with the story so far concluded, it was time to jump into Path of Fire's raiding content, which due to the nature of the plotline had its own self-contained narrative, and once again was highly enjoyable. Utilising the newly acquired Mount Masteries and injecting them directly into the gameplay while working through the raid wings was great fun. Complex fights with multiple mechanics to wrap your head around, and I was glad to see the surprisingly engaging experience raiding in the previous expansion being carried over to Path of Fire, while adding some spice into the mix to give it a spin relevant to the expansion that provided it. Raiding, it has to be said, due to the horizontal progression of Guild Wars 2, does for me at least feel less rewarding working through the raid bosses, due to them almost never dropping anything of significant value gear-wise. But with the choice to go with such a model for gearing, does come with it the ability for any player with a decent build to be able to jump into all of the game's available modes and challenges, without worry that there will be a significant loss when teaming up with others for content. With the fall of a number of the land's toughest adversaries, a collection of bounties in the bag, and a whole host of new companions at his side, Gizmo looked at the next opportunity, and after delving into the deepest depths of Path of Fire and reaching some dizzying heights, finally got a real look at the majestic beauty of the desert landscape. Yet another addition to the roster of this expansion is Guild Wars 2's first flying mounts. The Griffin can be obtained after completing a number of collections for each zone, featuring tasks ranging from questing out in the world, taking out bounty targets, to more challenging exploration, and in my opinion it's the perfect swan song for the Path of Fire expansion, taking the player to each zone and tasking them with putting together all they have acquired in their time in the desert to obtain one hell of a reward. Of course, also featuring its own mastery line of skills, the Griffins along with all Path of Fire mounts can be used in the other zones of Guild Wars 2. And the Griffin, at least for now, has been set up to not completely remove the need to use your head while exploring the game's world, as acts more of an advanced glider than a traditional flying mount. The Griffin cannot fly directly upwards, instead using dive bombs and single flaps of its wings on cooldown while in flight, and is a massive leg up, but also retaining the albeit reduced challenge of reaching tough hero points and other collectibles. My time adventuring through Path of Fire with old Gizmo here has for me been an unbelievable experience. Everyone has preferences when it comes to what they consider worthwhile content, but ArenaNet with Path of Fire added features and built upon others that if done by some other developers would be split across 2 or 3 separate expansions. I said it in my first video of the series, and I will again, as it's even more profound for me now. But the ability to continuously add so much flushed out and worthwhile feeling content in this game is unbelievable. Do you want mounts? Okay, have 6 unique types all with skill sets that we will build into almost all of the other content available in the expansion. Do you want bounties? Here, have a ridiculous amount all with constantly changing parameters to keep things interesting, even once you've finished them all. Oh, and we'll throw in a new spec for every single class while we're at it. Say what you want about where the game is, and people may call me sycophantic, but what I am so impressed by is so little of this game feels like it was added just for the sake of having it. And as far as I'm concerned, whenever I see that kind of passion being put in by a developer, I'm gonna highlight it, as it's one of the keystones that keeps our experience as players at the forefront of game design. Path of Fire for me is one of the best MMO expansions I have ever played, adding in new and exciting features while making the tried and true experiences all the better to get involved in, all wrapped up in a narrative that just keeps surprising me. If you're a fan of open world MMOs and you're yet to experience Path of Fire or Guild Wars 2 in general, then consider giving it a look. As for me, this one will go down without a shadow of a doubt as one of the greats. Thank you so much for watching. Have you played or are looking to jump into Path of Fire? As always, I'd love to get your thoughts down in the comments. I'd also like to give a massive shout out to the channel members who help in supporting the channel and keeping the content coming. If anyone's interested in joining as a channel member for all sorts of perks including exclusive videos, the info is down in the description. Thanks again for anyone getting this far into the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.
Jesus, calm down! Oh dear Lord, what have I done?